Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Righteous Force, Chocolate Saiyan, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, hey, hey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. So yesterday we did an entire show that basically covered housekeeping in what I thought was fairly concise, but actually turns out it was all sort of jumbled together, so it ended up being sort of 3 shows that I released separately. But we did cover all of the housekeeping questions across those 3 shows. They just weren't as specific as I was hoping. I think we'll have to dedicate some actual time to each housekeeping question as has been requested a few times. In the meantime, we'll just cover it as usual. So, the amalgamated, any signs of a physical geometric Earth curve edge?
Chocolate. Talk about the model.
Not in bed.
Yeah, in the model, sure.
So for clarity,
Yeah,
we're
I
asking
agree
for
with chocolate in the model, but not
Yeah.
in reality.
for clarity for audience members. There is an assertion we have Earth curve, and the only actual demonstrable Earth curve is in the model itself. Beyond that, there are no physical demonstrable evidences that we stand on a sphere. We don't. The Earth is obviously unobservably flat. The former presupposition and justification for that presupposition in an R value was debunked by a piece of evidence called the Black Swan, debunking the radius presupposition as being tenable anymore. So you have no evidence of an Earth curve horizon geometric that it formerly was to demonstrate. So there is no evidence of Earth curvature. It's been debunked by the Black Swan, as has a lot of other things that are dependent. So any signs of axial rotation? Hey, Arwin. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None.
No,
We do not move.
the Earth does not move. We do.
So there's an assertion that Earth's spinning, and the claim proof of Earth spinning would be that we have a Coriolis effect observable from the ground, in the form of things like bullets and footballs. You from the ground seem to observe the ball. Football we'll use as the single example. You watch the ball being kicked, it leaves the ground, which is a rotating reference frame claimed to be a ball Earth that spins, and from the stands it looks like the ball takes a curved path. It doesn't take a curved path, it's actually travelling straight, but the ground beneath it, with you attached to it, is still turning, so it seems to curve, because the Earth turned underneath the ball. But if the Earth, as it's claimed by Neil deGrasse Tyson, turned underneath the ball to cause this apparent deviation, then it would also turn underneath aeroplanes, helicopters and drones, and reduce flight times, and balloons would have continents travelling towards them as they hovered in the air. None of these things we actually observe. In other words, there is no Coriolis deviation that is claimed to prove we are spinning. There's none to observe. The only claimed demonstrable Coriolis effects take place in things that are in the air for only a matter of seconds, and the things that are in the air for hours at a time, like aeroplanes, have no effect where they should show the most. So there is no demonstration of an Earth that spins. Any evidence of the distance to the Sun?
None whatsoever.
It's over there.
Anybody on the panel? Distance to the sun is the question on the table before I give a quick summary. A few of you are on mute, to be fair.
Well, it's like Arvin said, it's over there. I mean, they can't even figure out where the geometric horizon is, which is much closer than what they say the sun is. So how are you going to measure where the sun is?
Well, I'm not going to measure much about it, except for angular relations. I did have a bit of a back and forth in Nathan Thompson's chat yesterday. I even forgot to talk about it in my show today. But he was saying that the Bible says it moves in a circuit. So that means it moves in a circle over a disk. So it's like, no, that's not what a circuit means. A circuit can be a circle, but not all circles are circuits. And it doesn't mention the over the earth in there as well in that specific sentence. So, yeah, bit of a back and forth with that.
So,
we're
Even the
not
Bible
sure.
does not reveal a lot of very specifics, geometrical wise, concerning the sun.
My reading of it is it doesn't say what the Earth looks like underneath it, but it does say that it's there for times and seasons. So we do know the times and seasons by it because they keep repeating themselves. And this is how in navigation they know where every star and luminary is at all times.
okay,
So
without being rude,
How does that
hold
relate
on.
to the distance
I
of the
don't want this
sun?
to be debated.
Are
Any
these-
evidence of the distance to the sun? If there's a distance in the Bible, I'll accept that. Is there?
no, I agree. There's no distance at all.
Fine, no worries. Let's just give the summary and then move on. So the distance to the sun was also utilising a presupposition of the R value, debunked by the Black Swan. Your application of presuppositional R value in the form of radius for Venus and radius for Earth, followed by the application of Kepler's third law, can no longer also be tenable on account of the fact that the presuppositional R value has become untenable. That R value gave you a geometric horizon. So all of the heliocentric model, as a result of the Black Swan, collapses in upon itself, including the astronomical distances based on the R value. The distance to the sun in the heliocentric model also implodes because you can no longer beg the question of R. The model has become untenable. No more distance to the sun, no more Kepler's third law, no more assuming R. Certainly no more assumption that Venus is the same size as the presupposed spherical R value utilised in the Earth radius. Moving on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
They can't define it.
Well, it's an effect. Basically, the cause is relative density, and Newton never claimed the hypothesis. And Einsteinian gravity is based on a pure conceptual medium. So there's not a lot to go with scientifically concerning gravity.
Perfect, Darwin. Couldn't have said it better myself. Followed by a few quotes from some astrophysicists. Brian Cox, gravity is not a force at all. End quote. Or George Musa.
Well, apparently,
Go on.
this guy named Neil Raid says gravity is a force, and he called me a moron. He said he owes 2 degrees from Rice University. He says, and applies physics and astronomical theory.
Okay.
I told him to get his money back, but
It's one question you can ask him. Just say, show me. And then if he immediately reverts to his fundamentalist religious belief in a sphere, point that out to him. Say, don't beg the question. Don't utilise your fundamentalist religious belief to prove your fundamentalist religious belief. Or quote him, George Musa. Gravity is not a force.
I've noticed
What
that people
keeps us on the ground?
Rice,
We're more dense than the air that we're sat in.
It's that simple, correct?
Yeah? That's simple.
Okay.
to my friend who had the discussion with the person from Rice University, anyone with that degree is puffed up.
yeah, I told him to get his money back. If he still think that gravity is a force. He's definitely hasn't caught up to the new Rhetoric.
Yeah, it's 100 years out of date. So, yeah, he's keeping up with 100-year out-of-date pseudoscience and not parroting the current pseudoscience, which is the bending of a conceptual medium, summarised by Arwin earlier, described mathematically as pseudo-Riemannian force space, length, breadth, depth, and time, time being conceptual. However, they have this conceptual fourth dimension being bent, as you can bend concepts. No, you can't. Nevertheless, in this idea mathematically, they bend this concept of fourth dimensional space-time, and this gives rise to a not actual force. But it's not a force. It's not forcing anything to do anything. Just a concept. Moving on.
It would take abstract science of numbers to come out with an abstract.
Yeah, it's not physics. Exactly. It's mathematics. It's abstract. Precisely. Well summarized. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I think Michio Kaku said it best. Where's chocolate when you need it?
yeah, go on, chocolate. Where's the quote? Because I don't know it.
It's either the pants.
You know the full quote, though? None of us know the full quote off by heart because we're so dependent on chocolate to just parrot it off each time.
Chocolate! Ah, finally.
What? The quote?
Yes,
Which one?
Michio Kaku.
Oh, in science, we always say that you make observations, you have a theory, you make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork.
Yes. Thank you.
Unquote.
Michio Kaku. Yeah. Yeah, guesswork is what you're doing when you're applying astrophysics to the lights in the sky. And mathematics, abstractions, not physics, not the physical, not real. Pseudoscience, guesswork, leaps of logic. Unlike science, empirical establishment of cause through systematic experimentation. Empirical. Useful that real science is empirical. Because if you're doing leaps of logic and guesswork, best call that science and people will believe it's true. When it's not. We move on?
And
No.
Yeah,
They're going
just
deeper
for
into
the
science.
little ballers like M. Scott Veach want to message me after quoting something like that, trying to tell me, oh, you didn't understand what he was saying. Well, no, I speak English very well. I understood what he said, and everybody that heard him say what he said understood it. So thank you. Don't blame me because your little pseudoscience is getting destroyed by your own scientists. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Speaking of M. Scott Veach, son of an astronaut, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for the gas to press upon?
Nope. But they can't demonstrate it.
There's no way to test it.
Wait, hold on.
Whether that's even possible.
Nathan, are the walls of a container considered a force?
According to M. Scott Veach, they are. What a clown. Any more comments? Because I'm going to summarise this point as well. Okay, so without the container, there can be no pressure. The necessary antecedent to have gas pressure is a container to press upon. Now, it's asserted in the heliocentric bullshit world of sphere Earth in a vacuum that we have gas pressure and it's not following a law of nature and dispersing into an available volume. That would be outer space. So outer space, the sky vacuum, is an available space for the gas we breathe to fill. And according to the nonsense of heliocentricity, this pressure isn't contained. You can leave this open system and travel to a little light in the sky called Mars, because there's no containment around Earth, according to the heliocentric religion of a ball Earth. Now, given that there's no containment and you can fly your little rockets out to Mars and the Moon through the vacuum, how is it possible that the gas we're breathing, which wants to expand in all directions by its very nature, isn't expanding in all directions to fill the available volume? That would be space. Well, that's because, put simply, the sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we're breathing would fill the space. This is dictated by natural law. Boyle's law, the second law of thermodynamics, gas law, all of these things indicate the same thing. To have gas pressure in the first instance, as we absolutely do, you require containment. And without the containment, as alleged by a bullshit religion called heliocentrism, you have an open system not following the laws of entropy. Ergo, the sky is not a vacuum. If it was, we wouldn't be breathing. So outer space is fake. Furthermore, any claim that has come from the sky vacuum, including but not limited to photographs of the Earth from space, in quotes, are all automatically deemed bunk. You can't take pictures from a fake place. The sky is not a vacuum, outer space is fake, therefore the pictures claimed to be taken from this fake place, known as outer space, are also fake. Instantly fake. Anyone want to add anything? If not, we'll move on.
But it looks so real.
No, but that was my point from yesterday. Where was all the educated? Didn't this smack them in the face? I mean, how did it get by everybody for so long?
How long is so long, according to you, Neil?
Even us being educated, how come none of us didn't snap? Did they put us to sleep that well?
No, because the people who were educating
so
us believed it
now.
also. So your teacher had no reason to disbelieve what he was permeating, even where there was contradictions that he may not have or she may not have understood. They just permeated the information. It was part of what's called a curriculum. So you got the information, they disseminated it. They weren't malicious in doing so. They weren't lying either. The information was just incorrect.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
When you have prior to television, all you have was radio. I remember there was that famous radio show that recreated, I think Orson Welles was the one who did it, and everyone thought we were being invaded by aliens. And it really fooled a lot of people because he did such a good job on the radio. So if the radio, which is a means of communication, could be that effective, how much more did television programming? So when the television came, everyone's glued to the TV. So when you have a means into a person's home, into the minds of father, mother, kids, for years and years and years, you can just put anything you want, have anybody with a white lab coat say it's true, and everybody believes it. Everybody. So
Yeah,
it's the
war of
programming.
Go on. I thought you did.
It's the programming. But if you get rid of the TV, if you don't allow them to program you, they can't program you.
Yeah, the War of the Worlds example was merely achieved through scheduling. So the first 15 minutes of the broadcast, which made a disclaimer to say that obviously it's fiction, was overlapped with a ball game. So most people tuned in halfway through the broadcast and just got to hear what sounded like the reactions of news reporters to an invasion. So that was purely achieved with scheduling. We move on. Any more to add to gas pressure without a container? Outer space being fake. You can't have gas pressure without a container. Sky's not a vacuum.
A pipe is a container, right?
Yes. Also, a pipe is a container. That's correct, Chocolate. Thank you for adding that.
Yes.
So what if the gradient just keeps on going thinner and thinner and thinner forever?
A gradient.
Does that make any sense?
A gas.
How do you have that gradient?
Yeah.
Let me just answer him quickly, just to get it done. A gas pressure gradient is a delta of gas pressure.
Right.
And to have gas pressure, you must first have the antecedent of a container. So it follows like so. Container, gas pressure gradient. So an appeal to a gas pressure gradient in no way addresses the fact that in order to first have gas pressure, you would require a container. So you can't have a gas pressure gradient without a container either. And if someone says otherwise, just say, can you show me a gas pressure gradient without a container? Beyond your fundamentalist religious assertion that the sky is a vacuum, because that violates the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy would increase. The gas would fill the space. Any more for any more?
Yes. But what if you would just consider outer space not to be a vacuum, but just gas pressure, and because of the bending of space-times and all the holes where the gravity supposedly gathers everything, it just kind of sucked all the gas towards that, so there's only very little thin gas pretty much everywhere else.
Well, that's
so
nice.
Then there would be no claim of not having any gas pressure within the container of the universe. It would just be really thin out there and much thicker over here.
I see. Well, while that's lovely, number one, I don't think of the sky as being a vacuum in any way, shape or form. And number two, their rhetoric tells us how much of a quantifiable vacuum it is in Tor. 10 to the minus 17 Tor is a differential beyond your mere comprehension, given that we can only achieve 10 to the minus 8 here. With huge thick walls. So given that the gas would be trying to enter that 10 to the minus 8 vacuum chamber that we can create here, I'm going to assert by way of my cowbell, the second law of thermodynamics, dong 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 dong, that the gas is definitely going to want to fill that space, Arwin. It's called entropy. It's a natural law.
I agree, but what if that specific vacuum claim was just arbitrary and completely out of reach and no way to ever prove it in any physical way?
I see.
And it was just a claim, and the vacuum up there is not like that at all. It's just less.
I see. Well, you can use, yes, there is a defense. Rumpus uses it. He says, quote, the second law of thermodynamics does not apply to the Earth, end quote. ... meaning, Arwin, meaning the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to my Earth model of a unimpeded path for the air to enter a vacuum, but doesn't. It doesn't apply to that Earth model. That's what he means. Because the second law, natural law, of thermodynamics definitely does apply to the Earth. It just doesn't apply to his model because his model violates that law. That model is the globe Earth model because it has gas pressure not dispersing into available volume as dictated by natural law. So it doesn't apply to his model only. It's a bit like the geometric horizon, only applicable in the geometric globe Earth model. Well, the sky vacuum not obeying the second law of thermodynamics, and the gas that we breathe not filling the space, that's only applicable in a model of a globe. Because in reality, gas follows natural law and always will. It's natural law.
Yeah, literally us breathing is the black swan for the vacuum of space.
Yeah, go outside, we've got gas pressure, therefore the sky's not a vacuum.
So what if whoever supposedly determines what it's supposed to be, what if that number was just moved along, just like how they moved the supposed distance to the sun and all that during the Copernican situation? They kept on moving the distance. What if they just say, wait, the vacuum, no, it's definitely not that. We don't know why we were putting that bar that far. It's actually much less. It's much closer to the higher ups of the gradient.
I understand where you're leading me. Hold on, I've just tweaked.
Answer the question.
I've just tweaked where Arwin's going. Yeah, that's right, Arwin. Yes, that's correct. You can arbitrarily change any of the values you like in a model. For example, you can claim that the sky is actually a 10 to the minus 17 Tor vacuum. That's what you can claim you look at when you look up at the twinkly lights at night time. What you're actually viewing is a 10 to the minus 17 Tor vacuum. Because in the model, and they claim the model is reality, that's what the model says the sky is. It isn't. It's preposterous. The gas we're breathing would fill the space. That's natural law. But in the model, you can say it's 10 to the minus 7. You can say it's 10 to the minus 18 or 16. You can just arbitrarily change a value and then work the maths around it, because it's just abstract. It's maths. It's not reality. The sky is not a vacuum, no matter what a model says it is. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, it still doesn't answer the question of how we have gas pressure to begin with, which takes pressure against the sides of a container. It's the antecedent. This is what we know. If you're going to use natural law, this is what we know. Now, if you're going to do a model, then you can, I guess, get rid of natural law, and then you're in fairy tale land.
Well, thank goodness for those pioneer gas molecules that decided to ignore natural law and do what the fuck they wanted to do and stay right here.
Yeah, those pioneering, bra-burning gas particles that said, no, we could just keep going as we are, but we are going to stop here at the Kármán line, have a little party, and rebel against natural law.
Rebel gas.
Rebel gas. Praise be to the rebel gas, because if they weren't rebellious, the sky couldn't be a vacuum. Oh, what's that? Gas has no sentience? It doesn't decide whether or not it's just going to continue moving at high speed in all directions until it encounters something to bounce off. So if it hadn't got anything to bounce off, it would just keep on going into the sky vacuum indefinitely, leaving us with no gas and death. Yeah, we're not though, are we? We've definitely got gas pressure, so we've definitely got the antecedent of a container as opposed to an open system and a sky vacuum. Anyway, let's move on. Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value?
Nope.
That went bye-bye.
Yeah. The R value is a 2019 assumption that was justified as being reasonable. Now it's been debunked and demonstrated untenable by the Black Swan. You can no longer arbitrarily justify the use of this presuppositional value called the R value, Earth radius, because, according to your measurements, you would have an R value that's the circumference of Earth in place of the orbital path of the Moon in your model, based on the calculations utilised to give you a physical geometric Earth curve edge formerly known as the geometric horizon, also called, when utilising mathematics of geometry, called Earth curve. So that Earth curve was the presupposition of the R value giving you a geometric horizon, which you don't have. It's been debunked by the Black Swan, collapsing in upon itself all of the assertions of the heliocentric model, which start and end, live and die, based on the presupposition of the R value. And it's been debunked, fundies. Black Swan.
Black Swan.
I think, as it hasn't been given in the other housekeeping questions with the R value, I'll do a quick rendition of the Black Swan argument for those unfamiliar. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement must be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. The distance to horizon in the Black Swan image is orders of magnitude beyond that which is laid down by the geometric claim to be certitude of the geometric model. Therefore, the Earth is definitely not a sphere. If you were to take the Black Swan's horizon and calculate it out with their horizon dip measurement, you'd end up with a sphere that is the size of the orbital path of the Moon. That's where your equator would be, where the current claim with the massive, massive distances and how far away they claim the Moon is. That's where your equator would be. That would be the edge of your sphere. Enormous, based on one photograph, showing beyond all certitude that the Earth is not a sphere. You don't have geometric horizons. The Black Swan is the whole point of the Black Swan analogy, is to show that we don't have geometric horizons. And the defence to this from the fundies is you don't have geometric horizons, they're all refracted, debunking any assertion that we can do geometric measurements with this position called the horizon, formerly a geometric sphere edge, based on the R value. It's all been debunked. It's totally untenable as a model. The R value is dead.
R.
They got problems. They have major problems.
Yeah, I feel at this stage of the game in 2020, it's now the point where we can start going through these housekeeping questions and bringing most of them back to the black swan. You know, we've got a silver bullet, so to speak, something that, well, no, you can't have an R value, black swan. No, you can't have Earth curve, black swan. You know what I mean? It just goes on and on and on. So
Well, I like that it's kind of been blowing up. Like last week, I called the moon the Selenilian eclipse, the black swan of eclipses, because that's an impossibility on their globe model. And I think it was Mr. Thrive and Survive did a video calling, um, basically calling what he did in the video the black swan, the lunar black swan, is how he put it, and it was pretty awesome. Yeah, he did like a observation where he had or somebody that he knows had like a physical ball and was actually matching that up with the shadows to the moon, kind of trying to replicate how it should be reflecting the sunlight. And obviously it didn't work because, you know, who the hell knows what the moon is, but sometimes those shadows just don't coincide, right? So he called that a lunar black swan, and I thought that was pretty cool because I just did the same thing last week.
It's like the
You mean
swan
the-
getting in front of the moon.
You mean the inverted shadow when it should be the other way, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean that's what I meant when I was talking about it, but he kind of used it in a different way, but in the same way, because it was like, you know, he's saying that it's a lunar black swan because that's an impossibility on the globe model for what we're told it is. So
Yeah. So is another black swan I brought up many shows ago. Star trail photography. Um, they say that the reason for the star trails photography showing what it does is because the Earth is spinning. Well, they also say at the same time that we're going around the sun 66 times faster than what the Earth is spinning. So anytime you do star trail photography, you must have a very steady, heavy tripod that's on the Earth. And if you hit it while it's in the star trail sequencing, say 2.5 hours of photography, and every so often it opens up and takes a picture. If you jar that tripod, it's going to show it in the picture. So when you see the same type of photography done in a vehicle going at 40 miles an hour, and the camera's mounted either on the roof of the vehicle or inside the vehicle, if anything moves inside the vehicle, like the passenger with a phone in her hand, as I posted, it's blurry sideways, or the way of the movement. So if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, then it's also moving around the sun in 12 months to get back to the same spot at 66,667 or whatever miles per hour. And that would also show a sideways or an angular streak. You couldn't get those perfect star trails anymore because more than one movement is there. And I haven't even brought the movement through the solar system or the Milky Way moving itself. So that's a black swan right there.
yeah, I get you. Perfectly circular star trails are a black swan for the sky model, the globe model in the sky, because yeah, we're moving in all these directions. How do we have perfectly circular star trails?
Yeah, with no blur.
Yep.
Okay, last housekeeping question, then I'll read out a couple of super chats. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
No.
Okay. Shout out to NZ for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Doesn't say anything, but gives me 10 New Zealand dollars. So thank you very much indeed. Also, shout out Unitox Femu, who says, everything that is refracted is spherical. ... Logic. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Unitox Femu. Also, shout out to FE News. He says, glad to see your live streams showing up again. Me too. Definitely very pleased about that, FE News. In fact, I can't express how delighted I am that I've actually got a decent audience for a change on the main channel during this live show. So yes, I really appreciate you highlighting the fact that we actually are appearing in the live streams for subscribers. Not that that should be something to be joyous about. That should be standard fare. I won't moan. Grateful for small mercies. Thank you very much for the super chat, FE News. Also, Pass Away Toe says, virus not contagious. Scared people are too funny. Thank you very much for the super chat, Pass Away Toe. Really appreciate your support.
Nathan, were you able to see the video that Burn Fat till my stomach splatters the earth put up on Alberuni?
No, I haven't. Oh, that's the kind of thing I'd right on my street. No, I haven't.
You should. He did a good job. Anyway, I'll just leave it there. So you can watch it. He posted it yesterday.
I'll check it out. I'm subscribed to him. I'm subscribed. I was very busy, to be fair. I've been rattling out more videos. You can tell when my numbers are down because I'll typically react pretty quickly to it and churn out more material. So I don't know. I'm reaching the point now where I'm like, okay, to try and keep my numbers in line with what they were before we were slightly censored or completely censored in the case of when it was live streams 2 weeks ago. I've tried to combat that. In other words, I've tried to keep my numbers as consistent as possible, which simply means if you're reaching less people, your numbers go down. Therefore, obviously, you've got to put more material out. So that's what I've done to try and keep it in line. But now I'm like, okay, I'm reaching the point where I'm going to start burning out. I know I'm doing more than I should be. I'm doing it non-stop all day, every day. I do enjoy doing it, but by the same token, I'm just doing too much. So it's one of those, I'm going to have to eventually resign myself to the fact that I'm just going to reach less of my subscribers with these videos, and therefore I'm going to take a hit no matter how much I try and work to avoid that. And I have done, since this has happened, I have mentioned it quite frequently because I'm constantly trying to evade that sort of detrimental hit that my channel's going to inevitably take, it seems, unless I want to burn out in the process, which I don't. That being said, check out all the snips that I've done. So I did yesterday's show, as I say, ended up being a slightly more convoluted, if you will, although that sounds more detrimental than it actually is, version of the housekeeping. So there's 3 separate videos out of yesterday's live show that ended up getting sort of trimmed and hacked a little bit, but going out as like 15 minutes each, roughly thereabouts. Sections on maybe 1 or 2 housekeeping questions per section. I think we did all right on this show. We might get a few 2-3 minute clips for each housekeeping question. That's what I'm aiming for. And if we don't, when I'm doing the editing later, trying to keep my numbers up. Keep you all happy, of course, because I know you all like the videos. Tell me in the comments. Thank you very much to everyone who comments and shows their appreciation for the videos. I'll figure out which ones have got a really concise housekeeping answer and which haven't, and then on probably sometime in this week's shows, I'll do those other questions with a more concise answer if we haven't got them already. And then I've started a playlist, so I've done a housekeeping playlist.
Good.
Excellent.
I think eventually. Go on.
Go on, Neil.
I said excellent.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I think it's worth doing. I've never felt that we've got to the point where the answers are concise enough, or they've got a rounded off enough answer to stick in a little video. Whereas now, I think we're at the point, especially more than anything because of the Black Swan, where there's no uncovered angles. Unless someone can tell me, maybe that would be something useful from the Discord server. Let us know, Discord server as a whole, not all at once, hopefully. Is there any angles in the housekeeping question that you think that aren't actually covered? If you had a good knowledge of the housekeeping questions, could you defeat all arguments against the globe, or are there angles that are still left open to, a way in?
Yeah,
Go on, Red.
There's no way in.
No, I don't think so either. Since the Black Swan, I think it's completely watertight as far as I can ascertain.
I would suggest, Nathan, that what you're doing is good because there's more than one person involved in the dialogue, and it's in like real time. But one day, officially, whether it's one panel member with you only, taking one question at a time, asking it in a off-the-show type of recording, not live, and then because you have such a understanding of each one, you can go through each of the aspects. So, say chocolate takes gas pressure without a container, and Arvin takes another one, and so on and so forth. And so you have the studio version, and then you have the live. So in your playlist, you have all of it for people.
Okay. Well, after I've got like a few more starts to the show with really sort of concise answers to each question, and I say I'll trim them out, and then people can get a grip of what the all-encompassing answer and question together are as a single piece. So today, while we've talked about star rotations and how they may or may not work in the model and things, that was discussed during housekeeping. So that will end up being one of those questions that ends up being re-asked in a different way, maybe 2 or 3 times to get the... I'm not saying that's the wrong answer, it's just, you're just chatting, right? It's live.
Yeah. No, I think it's good to have a variety of ways answering the same... questions are the same, but to have the variety of ways, but still end up with the same answer, because people need to hear the argument over and over and over.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously, the answer gets more refined.
I have
as
an
time goes
idea.
by. Go on, Neil.
I say we put the heat on Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, and we want him here. Get on this show and let's have a debate. Stop being a coward. Somebody, namely Nathan Oakley, debate Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'm going to go to work on that.
Why?
Because I want him exposed.
You do expose him. He's a useful hostile witness.
I still would love to hear him stutter and stammer on this show.
Okay, he's a high priest, and we're in the trenches, mate. No offence. We're the grunts here. And we deal with other grunts, like Rumpus. Well, Rumpus is more than happy to, as a faceless troll, essentially lie. Claim that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth, when in reality it only doesn't apply to his model because it violates it. He can say things like that. He can double-speak his way through Coriolis effect and assert that we shouldn't see deviation because Earth and atmosphere travel as one, flying in the face of the claim that we have Coriolis effect, as Neil deGrasse Tyson would assert in line with the rhetoric. The high priests get to argue with no one, just put out the rhetoric without challenge or with a sycophantic interviewer. Well, when you're doing that, they're only putting out the actual rhetoric. We have Coriolis effect. Earth turned underneath the football. How long would he last here with that argument? Most of the arguments we have with Coriolis effect are to tie our opponent to actually understanding and declaring what Coriolis really is, because most of the time they're arguing against it, when it's the claim-proof Earth spins. Well, you can't do that if you're Neil deGrasse Tyson, so he's never going to be in the trenches. Sorry. Just reality. Pissing all over your bonfire, aren't I, Neil? Sorry.
It's the same thing with A.T. Young, Andrew Thomas Young. It's the same thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson or Michio Kaku or Brian Cox or any of them. They're perfect hostile witnesses for us. They doublespeak. They have it in print or media. We get to use it. The ballers have to defend it. They get embarrassed. Let them get those guys on their show so we can have more material.
Yeah,
let's not lose complete hope because, every once in a while somebody will grace us with their presence and give us a wonderful quote, such as, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. Mr. George Mooser.
Meanwhile, you've got people like Rumpus asking me if I understand the difference between the second law of thermodynamics and the entropy law. The second law of thermodynamics is the entropy law, but Rumpus can come here and convolute that and make it seem like they're separate things, even though the second law of thermodynamics is the entropy law. He'll ask me if I know the difference between the two, or ask me if a demonstration of entropy is actually my belief. That's what he can do because he's a grunt in a trench. So it doesn't matter if Rumpus is proven to be totally contradictory of himself, because the mainstream rhetoric remains the same from the high priests. They could never be challenged, though, by someone like me. That's unspeakable. You've got to be joking. No. Leave me and us to deal with the double-speaking fundy zealots, who will contradict the narrative. Because what do I do with my... What use is some faceless twat like Rumpus when I hold him up in an example of him contradicting himself, or declaring with all stupidity that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the Earth? What does that mean to your average Joe? No, they want to see Neil deGrasse Tyson held to that task. So we don't get fed Neil, we get fed Rumpus. Rumpus meaning to cause a disturbance. That's all he's here for. Cause a disturbance amongst us. While we make it plain that the natural laws apply to nature, he'll ask us if we don't know the difference between the natural law's name being given as the second law or being given as the entropy law, one and the same thing. Because he's a fundy double speaker. deGrasse Tyson, on the other hand, has got to toe the line. Give the actual rhetoric. Earth spins underneath the football. As I say, we'd spend an hour getting to the point where they accept that Earth turns underneath something, because according to them it doesn't, even though the whole proof of Earth spin is a Coriolis effect that they argue about not having, because they can do that in the trenches. If I prove him wrong when he declares that Earth and atmosphere travel as one, even though gas is unbonded, what does that win me? A win against Rumpus? Who gives a shit? The guy's a nobody. Neil, on the other hand, if he's proven wrong, that has detrimental effects on the general public. Unlike Rumpus being proved wrong, he's an absolute nobody.
Well, we had a taste of this when Sleeping Warrior was effective in getting Fight the Flat Earth to interview George Musser. And it was George Musser would never come on this show, but he went on Fight the Flat Earth show. And next thing you know, he became a good witness for us because he said everything about gravity was magical. And it's a non-force force. And it just was a big win for Flat Earth. And that was a lesson I think they learned. So if you have Rumpus, who says he's in email dialogue with Andrew Thomas Young, and I can't call it looming anymore. Okay, great. It's already worked there because you've been misrepresenting what looming is. And then A.T. Young also double speaks, and he misrepresents looming as well. So you've got how many definitions of looming now?
Right. Andrew Thomas Young, again, useful, part of their rhetoric. Shout out to Unitox Femi, who says something about Rumpus going on his own show and having a lack of sex. It's gone off my screen now, my bad. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat.
Well, I can only dream because you see him sitting across Joe Rogan, and if there was a Nathan Oakley there instead of Joe Rogan or a quantum eraser, I would love to see how that turned out.
Yeah, someone like Joe Rogan might cross my path. That's not beyond the realms of possibility. Wouldn't want to piss him off. He's hard as nails.
He'll turn out the same, Neil. It's going to turn out the same way it turns out with the Rumpuses and Xanax. Because they're using the same arguments.
Where necessary.
Well, Professor George Porter, the guy who had the black and white video with the lecture on second law of thermodynamics, is very specific with describing it as entropy. So I don't know.
Have you got a quote?
Rump. Say that again.
You got a quote?
Oh yeah, we got the video where he's showing the gas in the little vacuum, the little glass tube. I mean,
I just can't remember him
basically describing it and showing it, demonstrating it as the second law of thermodynamics, aka entropy. So I don't understand what the confusion is with Rumpus.
There isn't. It's just, as I say, as a grunt, he's in a position, privileged if you want to deem it that, to double speak and lie around the rhetoric where necessary. You know, gas travelling as one, not giving you deviation. Well, that's flying in the face of the rhetoric of Coriolis effect. So that's his privilege, right? That's what he's here for.
Okay.
Like I say,
Yeah,
I think we're
that's,
wasting our time with these grunts like Rumpus. All they do is lie. In the last, 3, 4, 5, maybe more weeks, we've had a non-stop stream of these people coming in and overtly lying on the show. We've got several examples from multiple people where they overtly lie on the show. So it's now been proven to me beyond any reasonable doubt, and to any reasonable doubt of any audience members, that these people are fundamental liars. So what's the point dealing with them? What are we actually achieving by dealing with someone like Rumpus, where he questions if I know the difference between the second law of thermodynamics and entropy, when it's the entropy law? We're just dealing with, what would you call them, without being with some expletive?
well, they all violate the law of non-contradiction. Gas traveling is one, and yet gas moves in all directions. So you can't have both.
I'm kind of asking, it was rhetorical, but I'm going to make it into a proper question. What is the use of people like Rumpus? What purpose does he serve us?
I've answered this before in past shows. I've said once they're proven to be who they are, trolls, repeating the same argument that's been defeated multiple times, I'm done with them. There's no reason to give them any respect anymore, no reason to give them any airtime. They must come in with cowbell, not this doublespeak, not violating the rules of logic. And that's all they've been doing. So I agree with you. They serve no use once they've had ample opportunity to present a case, which they haven't been able to.
It is entertaining. I have to admit. On the show side of it, it is entertaining.
So you're saying
we got all the...
on a show about cosmology and the nature of the world that we inhabit, the only value that someone like Rumpus has to progress that understanding, that journey of discovery, is entertainment. That's his only value. Anything else?
No,
I
the entertainment is how you destroy them.
But is there any more educational? I can always, or have always been able until now, to justify the discussions with him because they illuminate some of the truth through his lies. But now that he's been demonstrated beyond any doubt and beyond the reasonable doubt of an audience to be a liar, it just seems to be almost detrimental to continue conversing with him at all. In my opinion, I'm just airing my thoughts as I think them.
That's what I'm alluding to, because we have plenty of recordings from all of them for the entertainment purposes to be played anytime we want. But they're actually coming on, they're lying, and they're very crafty about it. And they've been defeated so many times. They have, if this was a boxing situation, they wouldn't be allowed in the ring anymore. They've lost to everybody, and they still want to contend, but they've lost to everybody. Now they start lying, ad homing. Didn't he get kicked off on the Ballbusters for ad homing right from the beginning?
Hey, everybody.
I see
Brian.
it as a desperate
see that.
attempt to remain relevant in this discussion. Like they might sit around and say, "Oh, well, there's an echo chamber because nobody shows up here." Well, yeah, they've showed up here. They have been showing up here for years now, and now all their arguments have been destroyed. So why are they not showing up here now? Why are they in the chats every day, every morning? I mean,
that's a different
to
question.
me,
Well, I'm not questioning their motivation. I'll just give a quick shout out to Retro Bill. He says, smash the super chat. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat yourself, Retro Bill. I really, really appreciate your support recently. Obviously, times are tough for everybody, but thank you very much for this super chat. He says, shout out Arwin's Early Bird Show and paid endorsement for 10th Man's Cooking Channel. I can't believe it. Got shout out 10th non-related, non-Flat Earth show called 10th Man Dishes. But there we go. It's paid endorsement by Retro Bill, so you can thank him, 10th Man. So shout out to 10th Man's Cooking Channel. This has been an unsolicited announcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Retro Bill.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say. I'm humbled.
Hold on, one at a time. 10th Man, go ahead, plug your channel.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Retro Bill. I'm humbled. It was unsolicited. I thank you very much. 10th Man Dishes is a cooking channel, and it's for people to enjoy the love of cooking. So come and join.
That's 10th Man Dishes, number 10, THMANDISHES. 10th Man Dishes. Check it out, YouTube. Arwin, early bird.
Yeah, thank you, Retro Bill, for the shout out. Please do also come by my channel sometimes and donate there. And so you can shout out Nathan's channel. I have no problem with that. And yeah, Flat Earth Early Bird Show. I just passed the 500 show mark yesterday.
Yeah.
And, still going every day, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time, 1 p.m. London time. Flat Earth Early Bird Show.
It's 8 a.m. Eastern time now. I'll start declaring it now because all the clocks have squared themselves. So yeah, 8 a.m. Eastern for Flat Earth Early Bird, and then it's obviously 9 a.m. Eastern for Flat Earth Debate. But be here or be sphere on Arwin channel. That's ARWIJN.
Yeah, and to multi-tom-tom, no, I will not stop banning people.
I love it. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!